Is my screen visible?
Yeah,
Yes,
Hitanshu,
sir.
it's visible.
Okay, okay, okay. So first and foremost, thank you everyone for joining, and I'm Hitanshu Verma, your Flutter facilitator for this year, and we'll be wrapping up the front end section of the app that we were that we were working on yesterday. Okay, so yeah, I've taken some liberty and did some changes beforehand so that the session goes on smoothly. So firstly, you'll be noticing few new lines here, like this new list item section here and this new list key here. I'll be going over through them in a second. Firstly, I've added a new animated list here. It just does exactly what it says. It just provides an animated list, and it is having some properties like a key to uniquely identify every element of the list, the initial item count, like the number of items the builder will use when the app is initially launched. Like whenever I launch this app, the initial list it will be initial number of items will be building. It will be this count, right? And then the item builder, the builder which will be building every item of the list. So I'm supplying the length of the items list which I have created here. So the initial length which it will be building on the home screen will be the length of this list, like the number of items this list have. All right. So this is a list which has a specific type of items. Like yesterday, I explained list which can have any type of items. It could have strings, it could have widgets, it could have numbers, anything. But here I've created a list which could have just specific type of items. That is a list item type. This is not a defined widget. It is defined by the user. I have defined this, and I'll be going through. I'll be going over this as well in a while. So, so I have created a list items with a specific data type of list items, and it is getting its item from the list items widget. I've also created this widget. This is exactly what it does. It literally says what it does. It is getting its items from the list item widgets. All right. So yeah, we'll be heading towards this widget now. As yeah, the animated list is returning a list item widget. This is a Flutter provided widget, and it is having the items provided by this items list, like at the index. Every uh, item is provided uh, by this list item widget. Okay, we are providing some animations. Although I haven't added any animations yet, as it would have been become a bit complicated. So I've just left this empty as an to do, I guess. So yeah, and lastly, I have added an on-click function which will be used to remove the item from the list. All right. So yeah, let's now head towards yeah, the list item class, if I must say. See, the users can define both classes as well as widgets in Flutter, right? For example, this is how I defined a class, right? Just like you define it in CPP or C. Not sorry, not in C. Just like you define it in CPP. Normally you define a like class and then you call its constructor, right? So this is how you define a class. Whereas for to define a widget, you have to add the type of widget you're defining. Like I have made this class list item widget, and I have specified that it extends with an stateless widget property. All right. And one more thing, if you wanna create a stateless or stateless widget, it's as simple as writing STL and pressing enter. This will create the boilerplate code for a stateless widget, and same goes for a stateful widget as well. You just have to write STF. This provides you a stateful widget. All right. So I've created this class list item, which is having a single property, uh, property that is title. So every item here will be having a title, and this is a required property. So if I, where am I calling this? Yeah. So if I didn't provide this property here, whenever I call this class, if I don't provide this property here, it will give me an error. Wait, let me show you. This is giving me an error as it's saying a require parameter is not passed here. Right? The name parameter title is required, and there is no such parameter passed here. So we have to pass the require parameters for every class or every widget we create. Right? I have made this I've made this a required widget as I want my cards to have title. Right? So yeah, this was the list item class. Secondly, then there is this list items list. This is just a list which will be having this class as its type. So it will be calling this list item class and providing the title, right? You can see I have called this is the initial list which is going to be built on the screen, right? So this will be the initial list which will be built on the screen. If it should have called it here. Yep, from this side, right? So this will be the initial list. So as of now, this is having as a single entry. That is, you have to complete my homework. So this will be shown on the uh, home screen whenever I launch my app. All right. So yeah. So this will be the first and only item whenever my app launches from scratch, and I can show you that here. If I just hot restart it and restart the application, you can see this is the only tile I have this right now. I can add more, but I'll come to that when I explain the add functionality. So, where was it? Yeah. So this is the only item which we showed on the home screen. Then, secondly, we have. We have this. We are returning our animated list is returning this list item widget, which is building every list item on the body section of the application. So this is also a user-defined widget. I have defined this widget as well, and this is a stateless widget. As once a card is defined, nothing is gonna change in that card, right? If I have provided the heading or like the title for my to-do, the title is not gonna change. We can just delete the to-do, or yeah, it's gonna stay there. So that's why I have made this list item widget a stateless widget, right? So I have provided some required properties for this widget, like it has to have an animation for any future users, like if in future I decide to add any animation to the list, I can do this via this property. And then I have also provided an untitled function which will be used to like delete when the user clicks the delete icon, right? And I have also provided an item property. Item property will be used to add titles and stuff. Like essentially, item is the list. Item is of type list item, so it will be using this title section, right? If you want to add any image or anything, you can just add it here. Like you can just do this like final or any other property. Like if I want to add any description of my to-do, like then I can do it like this, and then I have to specify that in the constructor as well. This is the constructor for the class, so I have to specify that variable in the constructor as well. So I have to, if you don't want to make that variable required, you just don't have to do this. You just specify this dot description. This way, some of your cards will have a description, some of them don't have the description. So if you want to have an uniformity in application, just provide everything you want to incorporate in the uh, card section. So I'll be deleting this now. I'll be providing the whole code. I'll be like uploading the whole code on GitHub. So if you want to do any of the experiments yourself, you can use this code. So yeah, I'll be providing you the GitHub repo for this account. Cool. So coming back to the list item widget, state list widget here. So I have provided these three properties here, like item, animation, and on-click. Then this status widget is just returning an build item function. Build item just does what it says. It just builds an item, and it is not Flutter defined. It is also defined by me. As if I would have written all this here, it would have been pretty cumbersome because you can add further more things here. So it's a good practice to like divide your code in sections, like use functions or widgets here. That way it will be easy, and your code will be much more reusable, right? So yeah, I have defined this widget here, build item widget, and this widget is returning a container which is having some margin and which is having some decoration. In decoration section, I have provided the what do you say that uh, border radius, which will be making the radius, which will be like making the borders of the box circular. That way it will look much more upmarket. And yeah, so as of now they are white. You can use any color, like if you want to use like yellow color, you can do that as well. See, so now the cards are yellow in color. So this box decoration was used to provide this radius to the borders. Right? It's pretty straightforward. You just have to use the decoration property for the container, and then use the box decoration widget, and then use the box radius property to provide some circular radius. Then we have the child for the container, and like this child will be stacked on top of this container, right? As you can see here, this is the container, and this list tile is stacked on top of the container, as I explained yesterday. So let it, this container is having the list tile as its child. Again, where is this tile? Yeah, this is the Flutter defined property for every list. So this list style will be having a content padding. Content padding is exactly what it says. The padding for its content, right? The padding here and the padding here. So I provide this content padding here. If you don't want, you can just skip this portion. It is not necessary to have the content padding. Just comment this out, and there will be no padding. Everything will be starting from the start of the container. See, there is no padding. Even the card is now smaller in shape, as the padding I supplied was for all of the edges, for this edge, for this edge, for this edge, and for this edge. So now none of the edges is having any padding. So the tile is starting from the very start of the container. So it is looking like as of now it's just a single card. But when we have multiple cards, they will be all be looking mushed together. That's why we it's a good practice to provide padding and margins to your content. So this now it's looking much better. Then yeah. For the list style, we have provided title which we like extracted from this list item class. So that will be provided here, and then we provided some style like font color and font size. This font size and font color. If you want to increase the size, you can just do it. Right. So these are all just properties of these the text widget is having this property style. So it's all dependent on the user, how he wants his text to be, or how he wants his cards to be. Alright. Then we have this trailing property. This trailing property is also uh, part of your list style widget. What this property does is it adds whatever you are providing it at the end of the tile. Like you can see here at the end of the tile, I'm having this icon, delete icon. If I press on this, this whole like tile will be deleted. That's what I intend it to do, right? If I just remove this property from here, it will not function, right? We have to provide the functionality as well. So as of now, I have provided this icon button, which is having this delete icon here and a color red and some size here, right? So this is the icon here which is trailing the list idea. Alright. So this was regarding the list idea. Then we have this onPress function. As I just said, this will be used to provide the functionality where we can press this and this will be deleted from the stream, right? So we'll be coming to that in a bit, and yeah, this was pretty much it for that section. So yeah, so this was pretty much it. Like I was calling this function, this widget to like build this cards here, right? Now I want it to like provide me with some functionality. Like I want this button to be clickable, and when I click this button, this card should be deleted, right? So that's why when I have called this widget, I have provided this remove item function on the onClick property, right? What's the function? Oh yeah, this is the one. So like I have required this void callback function. I have specified that this onClick property will be a function, right? So I have provided this remove item function. Specifically speaking, for Flutter and for Dart, these are called methods, right? Methods is no need to be confused. Methods are just like functions. They do something and return some things. They're having there's certain data types. Like for example, for this remove item, this is having a void data type. So this is not going to return anything. Alright, so I have provided that onClick property with a function remove item. So whenever I use this onClick property, this remove item function will be invoked. Alright, so what I have done here, I have provided an index to this function, and I've just for the list I have just used the property remove at. See, the lists are having certain properties, right? So this list this item list also has a property called remove at. So what does this property does is it just removes anything which is at that index, right? So can you find the remove at? So this remove at property will remove the content from this items list at the index I have provided. Alright, and where does this index is coming from? See, this widget is building this list style, and this is calling this onClick property. And onClick property is is having an index to itself when I have passed it to the onClick property. When I have passed this function, it is already having an index to itself, right? This index is nothing but the index this list widget is using. Like for example, for now this is just a single. We are just having a single tile here. So this list widget was called just once, right? That's why this is having index 0. If I was having multiple cards here, this list widget will be called multiple times, and the index will be incremented accordingly. So every time the list widget is called, the index is incremented, and the remove item function gets a new index corresponding to the card I have just created. So if I want to delete this one, this index is already having the zero value. If I just created a new card here, this index will be already having the 1 property. like one value, right? So just give me a second. Yeah, so we'll be having this for every list item widget, we'll be having their respective index values, right? So coming back to this remove item function or method, we are having this remove items. We are having this remove items here, which will be storing the item which is removed, right? The item which is about to be removed at certain index, it is storing that item. Alright, I haven't provided any data type here. I just made this variable final. Dart is by itself gonna provide this variable data type, as I am like storing a uh, like a list item here, so it is gonna like automatically get the data type to the data type to, I just read the data type. Yeah, it is itself gonna assign the data type list item to the variable. Alright, if I just have written list item here, that would have been also fine, but yeah, I didn't provide it. That is by itself gonna provide the data type. Then yeah, I just use the property. Then I use the key. So the key was used to uniquely identify every card, right? So I just checked here first that at that specific position, like if I was talking about this zeroth position, whether this zeroth position was itself null or not. Like if the list at my zeroth position was already null, there was no like data in the list from the beginning. This remove add function will throw an error. It will say that I'm not having anything in the list. What should I delete? Like there isn't anything at the index 0 or the index you have provided me. So what should I delete? So that's why I have provided a null check here. This exclamation mark is doing nothing but it is checking that whether the current state is null or not. Right. So it is specifically specifying that the current state should not be null. When the current state is not null, just remove the item at the index. Alright. So this whole line is just saying that for the key, for the specific key of this animated list, if the current state is not null, that is, if the current state here is not empty, just remove the item at this index. Alright, so this is removing the item from the list we have created. Where was that list I have created? I showed it. Right. So this thing is deleting it from where was that list? Here. This line is deleting the item from this list, whereas this key is deleting the item from the body section of the arm. As like what if I deleted this from here? It's not gonna update it here, no. So I have to update it. So that's why I'm calling the key and setting the current state to remove item. This will remove it from the like screen of the application, like body of application. Then I'm just returning a list widget item with like animation which is null right now, and the removed item which I have removed here, and like an empty function. See, these are anonymous functions. Like when we define any function, we usually do this, right? Void function name, and then the like definition, like the body of the function, right? So whenever I don't provide any name and data type for the function, these types of functions are called anonymous functions. So all the like properties in Flutter which requires functions as their which requires functions generally take anonymous functions. I could have provided a name function here as well, just like I provided it here. But for that, I have to go through another step. See, these are inline functions. I could have defined this as this like this as well, like a normal anonymous function which is returning another function. I could have defined this like this as well. But there is one more syntax for with the Dart, that is inline functions or like arrow functions, if I may say. These are arrow functions. Arrow functions have a very specific use case. Like when your anonymous function is just doing nothing and just returning another function, that's when you use an anonymous function. Arrow function, right? So the syntax is pretty simple. From an anonymous function, just remove the curly braces and replace them with an arrow made using an equal and greater than symbol, and then just specify the function your anonymous function was returning. Like for this case, I was returning the remove item, right? So this is all about arrow functions in Dart, right? Like these are specifically used when your function is supposed to return another property or another function. Alright, so yeah, so it was pretty much it for the remove item function. So now I can show you that this function is working, as whenever I click this delete item button, the to do is now gone. Like the card is now gone from the screen. See, so what happened here was when I clicked this button, initially this was called, this removed the item from this list, and then this list key was called, which removed the item from the screen as well, as you can see, right? So now we have successfully implemented the remove property. So now we want our app to have an add event property as well, right? There is no use for an app which just removes and shows or removes and do, right? So we want this plus button to work as well. So we'll be doing the similar thing like we did for the remove item function. We'll be creating an insert item function. Yep, we'll be creating an insert item function. I'll be covering this future and async in a second, and I'll be explaining why I have used this. So firstly, this is also a void function. Just ignore this future and async for a second. So this insert item is also a void function. It is not returning anything, and yeah. So I'm having this show dialog widget, which is predefined by Flutter team, right? Which is having just a context. Context is nothing but the current state of your current situation of your display, and then we'll calling a builder. These are all required properties for this show dialog widget. As you can see here, these both are required properties. Like I have to supply the context and a builder to the show dialog builder, right? So we were providing the context, and for the builder we were just calling an anonymous function which was returning a alert dialog. So I just discussed about the arrow functions. So let's just convert this into an arrow function, right? It will be a great example for that arrow functions. So firstly, it will be you can see this is an anonymous function here, right? And it is just returning another alert dialog widget, right? So it is not doing anything by itself. It's just returning another widget, right? So I'll be firstly removing the return property, and then I'll be removing the curly braces, and then I'll be like adding the arrow here. See, this is how you add up. This is how you add up anonymous function. Sorry, arrow function, right? As you can see, everything is working perfectly, right? So if I just restart this application, you will see that the homework card will be reappearing. You can see, as when I restarted the application, this list was rebuilded. What was that list? Just read it. Yeah, this list was rebuilded, and this list was rebuilded, and this list item was again provided to the list. That's why it is having this list, this item again when I restarted the application. Don't worry about that. Once we add a backend and checking conditions, this thing will not be happening. So we'll be covering that backend section in the tomorrow's session. So coming back to the add item function, insert item function. Uh, yeah, I have called a show dialog widget which in itself is calling an uh, alert dialog widget. What is an alert dialog? It's just a simple alert dialog you see in like many apps, many websites, like just a pop-up box which is showing you some stuff. Right? I have provided some shape to the alert dialog, and the content it is having is contained in a container. Right? So this container is having some height and width, which will be the size of the server dialog. And this container is having a column in which we're just having a single child. Specifically speaking, in this situation, this column widget is not needed. It is an absolute widget here. If I just remove this widget and provide the text field as a child here, there'll be no difference in this application as of now. But down the line, when I decide or you decide to add a description into your to do, you will be using this column as you'll be writing two lines of you'll be writing two lines of input. First, the title of your to do and the description. So you'll be having another text field here, which will be having the description of your to do. Right. So currently, this is just having a single text field. This is also a Flutter defined widget, which has the necessary property named onChange, which is also having an anonymous function. So in this anonymous function, I'm updating this title value, which is a string I've defined already here, to the value user provided. This string value will be storing the value user provided while typing the heading for the to-do, and this is now updated to the title variable. All right. Then I just created a final new index which is 0. This thing will be used to add the new to do at the top of the list. If I just change this to 1, this then the new to do will be added at the second position in the list. So I'll just convert it back to 0, and then we have a new item which is also a list item or which is having the title, right? And then just like the remove function where we use the remove property to remove it from the list first here, and then the key to like remove from the screen, similarly we are doing here as well. We're just inserting the item into the list first, then we're checking whether the current position is null or not and inserting at that position, right? So this is how your insert item function is working. I'll be coming to this async and future in a second, but yeah, and this await as well. These future, async and await, these three terms you'll be seeing a lot used in like used together a lot, right? You'll be seeing these three terms used together a lot because they are all connected to each other. I'll be explaining them in a minute, but firstly, I'll be explaining how this button is working. So in the last session, I explained this floating action button is a part of the scaffold, right? So this floating action button is having like widget called floating action button, right? And the mini property is set to false, that the button is of normal size and not of a smaller size, right? Then I have provided the background color to orange, and then when the user presses the button, I have called the insert item function and done everything which I have explained here, right? So it's as simple as that. This is all how the floating action button is working. So now when I click this button, this insert item function is called, and this show dialog widget is called, which in turn calls the alert dialog, and an alert dialog is shown to me. The title for the alert dialog is add to do, which is shown here, and then we have a text field, which is this area where I can write. So I can write like COA mid on And just click OK and add. This will add another to do here. So like it added to the items list, and then it added it to the body section of my app, right? So this is all about insert item section. And then is there anything left now? Yeah. So this is how we were adding items to the section. Mm, I don't think anything else is left to explain now. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, these future async and await things I've written here. So this future keyword here is used to tell the compiler that okay, there will be some things which will be taking from the user, and depending on those things I'll be doing some certain things. Like for example here, when I just add a new thing, I'll be like add a new tile, I'll be providing a title here, right, which will be updated here, and then based on that title, sorry about that, based on the title, I'm creating this new tile, right? Based on the value of this title, I am creating this new list item. So until or unless this title is updated, I'll be this like this list item will be getting a like an empty string here. If I don't update this title, this list item will be getting an empty string here, and like you'll be getting a card without any title here. So that's not something you want to happen, right? So that's why I have told the compiler to to wait for the show dialog widget to complete its execution, right? Once this is completed, it will update the title and then call this new list style function. What was if I remove this async and this await function from here, what will happen is it will call this, all right, it will print a dialog on the screen, and then it will not wait for the title to change and execute these lines, and then it will come back to this, and then it will update this. I'll show you. Let's remove this async and await keyword from here and just convert this into a normal function. What will happen is this will update this title, but it will not be reflected in my application. See, yep, the application is restarted now. So now if I add a to do, see, you can see this alert box and this title was like called simultaneously. This as soon as this alert box was called, this new title was printed on the screen simultaneously, right? I haven't even added a title yet, so there's no chance this title is going to have any title. So that's why I have told the compiler to specifically wait for this show, show dialog uh, widget, right? So I've told the compiler here to okay, first finish this execution, then you go to this execution, right? So this was all about your future async and await keywords. So now if I add a to do, sorry about that. Uh, So now it will, now it has taken the input. When I just click anywhere, it will be provided to the title here, and then this new entry will be created. You'll see, right? So I think it was pretty much it for the front end section of this application. Tomorrow we'll be working on the back end section of this application, right? So any queries up till now? Any queries, any doubts, anything up till now? Okay, so I don't think anyone is having any questions. So I'll be wrapping up the session here. Like we have completed the front end part of our application, and yeah, in tomorrow's section I will be working on the back end section of this application, right? So I'll just pause stopping the recording now.